Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you had a second chance? Are you willing to take a gamble, open your heart, and change your thoughts and perspective for a new chance at life? Welcome to the Wisdom Café. I'm your host, Arthur Tassinello, a relationship and leadership coach and mentor. Join me each week for insights into how you can have more love, happiness, peace, and abundance in your life without giving up who you are. Know that you are powerful and you are the governor of your life. So listen, learn, and leap into a better future. Well, welcome to everyone. I'm Arthur Tassinello, your Wisdom Cafe show host, and I want to thank you for being here today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about integrity and what's the difference between integrity and ethics. Now, that can get confusing sometimes, can it? Integrity really is about you. It's about how you act in the world, what you do in the world. How truthful are you? What are those things that make you who you are? Are you morally stable, morally sound? Ethics, on the other hand, why it gets confusing is because ethics is really about the organization's tenets. It's their tenets and how they operate. It's their doctrines, it's their principles. And they're set in place to avoid dilemmas within the organization. So while ethics may seem to be above board all the time, it may not be, because it's really how they legally operate. And again, integrity is all about you. It's all about your morality. Integrity it's personal. It's the foundation of moral virtue and good character is built upon. It means to live with the principles of honesty, fairness, and decency. I have a good friend of mine. His name is Frank Beccaro. He's been teaching this for decades. He goes into organizations and especially to leadership to talk to them about the difference between integrity and also ethics. He says that there are two types of positions that you can play within an organization as a leader. One is you can be the authority, or you can be the I can't say this word honestly, authoritarian. So you can be I can't say the words. But anyway, so if you're authoritarian, you have companies, parents, schools. These are the things, they use their power at the cost of another, right? They're telling somebody what to do and not acting. You often see that. Maybe you grew up with this, where your parents say, do what I say, not what I do. It's a mixed message, isn't it? The message of, well, okay, I understand that you're telling me to do these things, but why aren't you doing the same thing? It's self-serving. It uses fear as a motivator, if that's a motivator, to get obedience. It's kind of this, if you do this, then you get that. And it's common and does not invite. It's commanding people. They give you no choice. Now, authoritative uses their power in service to others. Helping, aiding, teaching. They don't force themselves or ideas on others. They invite people and do not use commands. It recognizes the value in other people, and it is being transparent, empowering, and trusting. Now, I've run companies before. I've had a lot of companies myself, and I've always found it empowering for me, as well as for the people that worked for me, if I would try and help them in some way do their job a little bit better. Or if they were having struggles with their job, to help them through that. It's not the way to do. What you don't want to do is say, hey, dummy, do this. That's never the way to act in an organization. In fact, there are many times in an organization where it actually sit down and do the job alongside someone else. So to get them comfortable in what they do and to let them know that I have the ability to do that and I'm on their side. The best thing you can do as a leader in an organization is to be that help and that guide so that maybe they'll do their job so well that they'll be able to take your job. And the best thing about that, you might think that's counterintuitive, but the best thing about that is that they're elevating you because they're doing their job so well. So you don't want to be authoritarian. You want to be you want to be an authority, the helping authority. How's that? So leaders make this choice every day as to what type of power they will wield. As you know, as Frank says, one builds up and the other tears down. One is values-based and the other is self-serving. One is community-focused and the other is individually focused. What kind of leader do you want to be in an organization? As a leader, which type of power do you use? What type of power does your boss, your leader, use, and how is it working for you? Now, I'm going to talk some more about that, but in my book, Your Key to Love and Happiness, on page 61 is week 13, and it talks about integrity. Do you live your life? You have to ask yourself this question. Do you live your life with integrity? Do you have a strong moral compass? So there are two compasses in the world, if you didn't know this. There's a true north compass and there's a magnetic north compass. So the magnetic north compass changes depending on where the magnetic pole is. Yet there is the true north compass, which I say that we can live by. And I think it's important to live by that. So your moral compass creates a clear mental picture and is a process that points you in the direction of being honorable, noble, and respectful. You'll also notice that when you are respectful of others, you're probably getting respect yourself. I often say that if you want certain things in your life, then you have to be those things. If you want more love in your life, it's important to be loving. If you want more kindness in your life, then it's important to be kind. And so it is with all the virtues, whether it's caring or compassion or empathy. The more empathetic you are, the more people will be empathetic with you. The more compassionate you are, the more people will be compassionate towards you. The more caring you are, the more people will be caring with you. So a lot of people will talk about, well, they are natural at having a moral compass, morality. Morality in many ways is taught to us. In the beginning, when you were born, you were taught certain ways to be. In the first 7 years of life, you have learned certain habits from your parents. As you grow, you will learn other habits and other ways of being from your peers. You will learn that from your teachers. You will learn that from the news. You will learn that from the area that you grow up in. Because as you know, the world has different ways of being wherever you are. You will learn it from your religion, or if you're not religious, you will learn certain ways to be as well. A Yale psychologist, Paul Bloom, said morality is not just something that people learn, It is something we are all born with. In their studies at birth, they say that babies are endowed with compassion, empathy, and the beginnings of understanding what fairness is about. And it is from these beginnings, he said, and he argues in his book, Just Babies, that adults develop their sense of right and wrong, their desire to do good, and at times their capacity to do terrible things. And so do children. He said, while he admits that it is difficult to assess with very young babies, he says that he has found that even at 3 months old, they respond differently to a character who helps another than to a character who hinders another person. He also says the strongest evidence that morality has a genetic component has little to do with human differences and everything to do with human universals and even heredity. So perhaps what we're seeing is that what you learned through the genes of your generations before you are guiding you either to be moral or not to be moral. Now, this is hard to understand sometimes, whether we really get that from our genes, and it certainly is possible because it's hard to test babies, especially at 0 to 3 months and even 3 months to 6 months. But I would guess that you would see it if you have your own children, how they start to act. Why do children start to argue at an early age? Why do they start to do things that aren't kind at different ages? Where do we get this from? And it certainly can't always be from our parents, I would think. So Diana is in the studio with me. And Diana, based on some of the things that I was just talking about, what's your impression of where do you think children actually get their information from as to why they do the things that they do, or whether they're good or bad?
Very much like you said, in their first 7 years of life, for sure, we learn the most important information. And the most important information that we need to learn for life, we learn in kindergarten. I mean, that's just be kind, the golden rule, how to tie your shoes, all that good stuff. And just like we inherit heart problems and diabetes and all these other different medical conditions, we also inherit much of our behavior. And many of us, many children, I think, learn in order to fit in how to behave, whether it be good or bad. And I think if we teach children within those 7 years, those first 7 years of life, like you were talking about, that north star, that moral compass, and teach them discernment. I think discernment is essential, not guiding them 100%, but what do you think? Is that right? Is it the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do?
I think that's a perfect point. When you start to ask children themselves how they feel
Exactly.
about what they are doing, instead of telling them that, hey, this is right, hey, this is wrong, and not really guiding them or not letting them be part of the conversation, so they get a better sense of, let me think about how I'm doing that. Let me think about why I'm doing that. And
Correct.
would I want that done to me?
Exactly. I had my son disappear at Dadeland Mall because he wanted a toy in Disney, and he didn't know about buying or paying, and he just the whole mall was like on lockdown for about 20 minutes until he showed up. We found him at Disney, but he went back to get a toy he wanted. And when we found him, we asked him, do you think this is the right thing to do? And he says, yeah, I want this toy. I said, no, look, there's a line to pay. If you want something, someone has to pay for it. You don't have money yet, so you have to ask mommy or daddy. So little by little, it gets inculcated. I'm maybe I'm Spanglishing it, but inculcated what is right and what's wrong.
Yeah, they start to learn not only from you, but intuitively they start to get a better sense of how we operate as human beings, right? Because as we were talking a lot earlier, we started talking about who we are, and the reality is that we're all the same. Not everybody feels that way, but we are all the same underneath this meat suit that we wear, and we all have the same makeup, and we're made of energy. I'm going to say that as Thomas Jefferson said this. So the moral sense is as much a part of man as his arm or leg. So the saying, don't cut off your nose to spite your face, it's kind of the same thing. Remember that how you feel internally is the same that you might feel externally from either being hurt or being loved. I think we're going to take a little commercial break here, and we'll be back in a few minutes. And I hope you join us again when we come back to discuss a little bit more about wisdom, integrity, and ethics.
Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you had a second chance? Are you willing to take a gamble and change your thoughts and perspective? Welcome to the Wisdom Café. I'm your host, Arthur Tassinello, a relationship and leadership coach and mentor. Join me each Wednesday at 3 p.m. to explore what it is to be human and create that second chance.
You've been watching the Wisdom Café with Arthur Tassinello. For more information, please contact the studio at 888-994-4995 or send an email to arthur@arthurtassinello.com. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back. I hope you find this topic interesting, and maybe you know some people that have integrity and or don't, and the difference between integrity and ethics. As we said, ethics is really more of a legal sense for an organization that to help guide them so they don't go astray and they don't get in any legal trouble. But the reality is that integrity is all about you. It's all about your moral compass, your morality. When is it that, or how do you act? And do you want to be seen as a person of good stature? Do you want to be seen as a person that can be trusted? And then that leads into having respect. So you can't make somebody respect you, and you can't make somebody like you, but you will be liked and you will be respected based on what your actions are. There's a proverb that goes this way: watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become your character. And watch your character because then it becomes your destiny. So your destiny, traveling down this road, is really shaped by you, and starting with your thoughts about thinking about how you will act in this world. You know, there's another saying, I like a lot of these proverbs. One of them is, watch your words because they can cut deeper than any knife, and they will last a lifetime. That scar will last a lifetime. And it is so true. You can get physically hurt, and you might remember that, and it'll heal. But the words that you speak to someone, I guarantee you, will stick with you for a lifetime. I know specifically of words that were spoken to me by people that I had a high regard for. And I still do in many ways. But I still remember the time when someone said something negative to me, and that still is here. It just doesn't go away. Have you had that situation as well, Diana?
Absolutely. In comparison to that, people remember how you make them feel more than what they say, something along those lines. Yes, absolutely. People have said things to me, and I, in return, have, without consciousness of what I'm saying, have hurt. Again, my son, he said he wanted to be a painter. I said, that's a hard job. Not everyone, like not everyone makes money. Most people make money after you die. And I didn't realize how that affected him.
Yeah,
until later in life.
That is interesting. Those words, I know my dad, when I thought I wanted to be a singer when I was young and in high school, because I was always singing to all the records that we put on. That's how old I am, folks. Yes, I had LPs playing.
Me too.
I didn't have any discs or anything like that.
So did I, so no worries.
But he said, "Oh, what are you kidding me?" And he would never took me serious about it. So who knows? Maybe I could have been, maybe not. But that kind of squashed my hopes about being a singer. There is so much in life and how we act, and in so many different ways. I know we're talking about integrity, but the offshoot of that is actually how you say things to others. So it's not just about your actions, it's really about, again, we get back to our thoughts and what we say to others. We get to these places of, I know all of us have these little buttons on us that we wear, right? That somebody wants to push every once in a while, that from our childhood, that something that hurt us, and the next thing that we do is kind of react to those things. I ask you to maybe think about what you're feeling at that point. Why did that hurt you so much? Why are you still holding on to that hurt that is similar to what just happened to you? And before you decide that you want to react to that person, before you decide that you want to say something back to them that's as equally as bad as what they said to you because you felt that way, I would ask you to stop and think. As they say, you cannot create peace by creating war. There are a number of questions that I'd like you to think about that are in the book, and that might help you through maybe the next day or so as you wonder and assess yourself. So a question here is, who were the people in your life that lacked integrity when you were a child? What made you see them this way? How did you feel about that relationship with that person? And what was your level of trust like with these people then? And what is it like with them now? These are a lot of deep questions because these people have shaped your life to some degree, shaped your life in some way. They were either loving or unloving to you. And that, again, shaped who you have become. Perhaps you've already worked through these things, and I ask you to maybe help someone else work through these issues as well, if you can. Diana, did you have some similar situations?
I was fortunate because both of my parents were they were very, they had high integrity. My lack of integrity came from trying to fit in with everyone else. And my mother was one who would specifically say, what are they going to say or what do they think? So that's where my lack of integrity began to be when I had to fit in. But other than that, as far as moral ethic, work ethic, I mean, they were both very ethical. Integrity.
Yeah, you're fortunate, right? They had integrity, right? They had that moral compass. I would assume that your grandparents were the same way. Did you know them well?
I knew my father's both my parents, both my grandparents on my father's side, and they were also, my grandmother was known for her bluntness and her just like this. On my mother's side, I only knew my grandmother because my grandfather had passed, and her integrity just came from her heart. She just came, it was just, she just exuded love, and she was always, that was her moral compass.
So she was always caring with you.
Especially me, yes.
Right.
And her other grandkids, but I was the favorite. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on TV, but oh well. She lived with me, so.
Everybody has favorites, don't they? Right? Yeah. I know growing up that my sister didn't always feel loved by our mom, but I did. And I had kind of the opposite reaction to my dad than she did. And I think that's that kind of that male-female connection, the boy with the mom and the girl with the dad. It seems to go hand in hand. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe we can discuss that another time on the show.
Well, I was an only child, so.
Oh, so you didn't, right. I know, I get that. I hope that you better understand the difference between ethics and integrity. Certainly this comes to play a lot in organizations. I know most of us work for an organization. Maybe you run an organization. I would hope that you will understand this a little bit better, that when somebody says, are you acting ethically, that's one thing. Yes, my organization, I'm acting ethically within the organization guidelines and principles. But are you coming from integrity in what you do? Are you personally, morally connected and responsible for what your actions and things that happen within the organization or just with another person? Not all of us always act with integrity, and maybe that's a conversation for another day as to why we don't. But for now, I think we can safely say that integrity is certainly very, very important in our lives, and without it, you can't be respected and you can't be trusted, and without trust and respect, who are you? Wisdom Café, Arthur Tassinello. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Be the change you wish to see in the world. God bless you, lots of love, and have a great day.
You have been watching the Wisdom Cafe. Join me each Wednesday at 3 p.m. to explore what it is to be human and create that second chance, as I examine ways about how you can have more peace, love, and happiness in your life. Until next week, remember this: when you change what you do and the way you look at things, the things you